Hello and good morning students, once again good to see you. The 17th lecture, semester 2. This lecture of ours is going to be the continuation of the unit that we initiated, commenced in the last lecture, lecture number 16. Unit 4, my point of view. In the last lecture, we acknowledged ourselves with the reading and understanding of the first article that was given to us, 100 UFOs sighted in India. Today, to continue this unit, we are going to read the second article given to us as well as the interview of a respected scientist, Carl Sagan. So, without further ado, let us get into the material on page number 32 and start reading and understanding what is given to us in this article. Well, UFOs in India, planes or planets. So, another caption just like the previous one of the newspaper article that was published in India News Today, one of the leading newspapers, published in the year 2013, 26th of July in New Delhi. Let us see what the article has to tell us about and what kind of views have been expressed regarding planes and planets. So a question is being asked in the title, UFOs in India, unidentified flying objects. But what are they? Are they planes or planets or something else? Well, for that, let's read BBC News, that is British Broadcasting Corporation, as the abbreviation says, BBC. BBC News reported on Friday that the Indian Army reportedly has spent 6 months watching what they might be airplanes or satellites. So, the army people had kept a close watch for 6 months, a long period of time, in order to understand the UFOs that they were continuously seeing, what they were thinking, that they were airplanes or satellites that they were seeing. Now it appears that they may have been watching the rising and setting each night of Jupiter and Venus. Well, the BBC tells us that the army officials, now it appears to them, to the BBC News, that what the army officials were watching were not airplanes or satellites. Perhaps it was the phenomena of rising and setting of the Jupiter and Venus. Well, we know about it, isn't it? That Jupiter and Saturn are self-luminous planets, whereas Venus is considered to be the most brighted, the most illuminated with matter of brilliancy as a planet, because it orbits in the inner part of the Earth's orbit. Therefore, it receives a lot of light. So, the BBC News has this point of view in mind, that what the army people were seeing now appears to BBC News as they were the rising and the setting of each night of the Jupiter and Venus, and not airplanes and planets. Well, this was the first point of view that we came across in this article. Moving ahead, we have yet another point of view given to us. Let us read it. According to the Calcutta-based newspaper Telegraph, so one of the leading newspapers that people read in Calcutta is Telegraph. Well, we are not known to this name of the newspaper because we don't have it here. It's a Calcutta-based newspaper. So, this is the point of view expressed in a newspaper article in Telegraph. Authorities say 329 sightings of unidentified objects were documented, were noted down over a lake in the patrolled region between last August and February. So, a time period, a time duration is being mentioned over here by the newspaper, Calcutta-based newspaper, that is Telegraph. So, we are reading about the point of view of Telegraph. Authorities are saying that 329 sightings of unidentified flying objects, UFOs, unidentified objects were documented, were noted down with the time period of August and February, during that duration, where it was over a lake in a patrolled region where people or where authorities keep patrolling, where police keeps patrolling during the night time between August and February. So this was the time period when 329 sightings of unidentified objects were noted down or documented. This was one opinion from the Telegraph. Moving ahead and reading the next point of view, military sources say that the objects seemed to regularly rise from the horizon and slowly cross the sky. Well, this is also a similar view that we saw in the other article. Next point of view is given by an individual. Army Lance Nayak. Well, just rectify the word. It's not AMY, it's ARMY. Army Lance Nayak. Well, Lance Nayak is a position, a post in the army. Army Lance Nayak, Manmohan Singh, reported that he had noticed a delay of 4 minutes in the appearance of one of the object searched consecutive day. So, what did Army Lance Nayak Manmohan Singh observed, and what did he report? What report did he give? He noticed that there was a delay of 4 minutes, that is the appearance and then the disappearance. So it was a delay of 4 minutes on a consecutive basis. A delay of 4 minutes was observed in the appearance of one of the objects searched consecutively. So consecutively the following day, the same thing that was observed for so many days together, the thing started appearing 4 minutes on a delay of 4 minutes. So every day they tried to see on a particular time, 4 minutes delay was observed, noted down. Therefore, Singh also said that the object seemed to be the brightest light in the sky and always appeared to move with respect to the stars. So the second thing that he observed was that it had brightest light, and apart from that, it moved with respect to stars. Just as the stars move in the similar direction, it was moving with respect to the stars as the stars move. So these were the two things that Army Lance Nayak reported or observed in his report. Next observation was by, or the next point of view was by the army officials. Army officials asked the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, abbreviating IIAP. So a task was given to IIAP about the sightings of the UFOs. A task was given to them, a job was given to them to investigate Bangalore, to identify the objects. So a task, a job was given to IIAP to find out actually what these unidentified objects were. Well, the person saying our task was to determine whether these unidentified objects were celestial or terrestrial. Whether it was celestial means it was heavenly bodies, something that was referring to the bodies created by nature or the Almighty's creations, or they were terrestrials, as we understood the word about terrestrial in the previous lecture, that is something referring to the earth. Astronomer Tushar Prabhu told the newspaper. So who told this? Tushar Prabhu, one of the astronomers of the IIAP Bangalore, said this to the newspaper agency, that is India News Today, as what task was given to them. So it was given by the army officials to IIAP to investigate about the rising and setting of the unidentified objects. Well, we had the opinion of IIAP later on after the investigation or their team. So the IIAP team told the Indian Army, so the word is ARMY Army, you have to correct it over there, it's not AMY, it's ARMY Army, how to record data about the sightings. So the army, the IIAP team instructed the army people how to record the data, because on the basis of data they will be able to analyze what the unidentified object was. Therefore, the IIAP team told the Indian Army how to record the data about the sightings, about the view of the unidentified object. Using this data as a source of information, the team of astronomers concluded, so when this data was provided by the army officials to the IIAP team, they were able to come to a conclusion that the objects observed were the planets Jupiter and Venus. Well, this was revealed by the IIAP team, that is what we just understood in the BBC report, that what they thought were airplanes and planets, airplanes or satellites, were actually what was appearing to them as Jupiter and Venus, because Jupiter is a self-illuminated bright planet and Venus is also a similar brightest planet in matter of brilliancy. So what they were seeing as the night advanced, they were able to see with their naked eyes that a self-luminous thing is rising from the horizon and traveling in the sky for 3 to 5 hours and then finally disappearing. Well, This is the phenomena that they probably might be seeing. That was the conclusion given by the IIAP team. Well, the IIAP team said stars and planets over the horizon appear very bright. So one more input was given by the IIAP team that the planets over the horizon appear even more brighter, very bright, because of the increased atmospheric transparency. The atmospheric transparency is very high at that time. Therefore, at the high altitude, and both Jupiter and Venus at that time were the brightest planets in the sky. At that given point of time, when these things were being observed by the army people continuously, at that time, this scientific reason has been, or astronomical reason has been given, that the atmospheric transparency was very high, and at high altitudes both Jupiter and Venus seem to be or appear to be very, very bright. Therefore, they were seeing such an illuminous planet rising and then disappearing. Well, these were the few point of view as we just kept reading. But this is not the end. We have a few more points of view about this thing. But not everyone accepts the IIAP findings. What IIAP found out in their studies, in their research, is not accepted by one and all. Well, people accept it. Here, local farmers have said that they have videotaped objects that do not seem to be planets. So, what is the conclusion, or what is the belief of local farmers? What they are projecting or saying, that they have recorded, they have videotaped objects that do not seem like planets. So they have a recorded evidence they are trying to show that we do not believe the findings of the IIAP, that it is Venus and Jupiter, and they said that they have videotaped it, and in the videos it does not seem to be like any planet. Well, this is also one of the beliefs or one of the point of view of the local farmers living in that area where the incident took place, the sightings took place. UFO experts are saying that there have been so many UFO sightings in the area that there may be an underground UFO base in the area. Now, a complete different theory is being projected by UFO experts, people those who are involved into this kind of research work. UFO experts are saying that there have been so many UFO sightings, means 329 sightings as we just read in the opinion given by the people or the newspaper Telegraph, a Calcutta based Telegraph newspaper, 329 sightings. So here UFO space, there are so many UFO sightings in that area that there may be, they are showing some possibility that there could be an underground UFO base in that area. I mean to say that underground there could be their place where they are halted or where they are situated. So this was the idea or the opinion given by the UFO experts. This was the entire article that we read with different points of view as we came across BBC, Telegraph, the military sources, Manmohan Singh, the Army Lance Nayak, IIAP team's findings, and the local farmers, and finally we have the UFO experts saying not just about the UFOs, but they say there are possibilities of the entire UFO ground base in that particular area. That is why there are so many sightings being seen. Well, so I hope you've come across the different understandings of the different points of view that were expressed in this article. Well, we have the activity based on what we just read, activity 4. The main idea of the short article, UFOs in India, planes or planets, is that UFOs have been sighted and there are different ideas about what they might be, what they could be, a different idea, because we do not have any sure short proofs for that or evidences for that what they are. But these are only ideas or theories what we are presenting. The article expresses its main idea by gathering information from a number of different sources, isn't it? That is what we came across. Different sources are giving their individual personal opinions and views. Each source gives different information about the UFO sightings. So, read the article, we already read it, carefully and record the information that each source gives. So, you've been given a chart to write the information that these different sources have given. So have a look at your screen, the picture being displayed, the 9 different sources that provide different information. BBC News, the Indian Army has spent 6 months watching, they thought that they might be airplanes or satellites. So this was the information given by BBC News as a matter of their point of view. Next, Telegraph, authorities say that 329 sightings of UFOs were documented over a lake in the patrolled region between last August and February. Military sources say the objects seemed to regularly rise from horizon and slowly cross the sky. Fourth source says Army Lance Nayak, Manmohan Singh, an individual. There was a delay of 4 minutes in the appearance of one of the objects each consecutive day. Every next day when he observed this, he found that there was a delay of 4 minutes. Well, the objects seemed to be the brightest lights in the sky and always appeared to move with respect to stars. This was the observation that Army Lance Nayak did and provided the information. Next is the Army officials. They said they asked the Indian Institute of Astrophysics, IIAP, Bangalore, to identify the object. So they had given a task to the IIAP team. This is what the Army officials did as a part of information they provided to the newspaper. Tushar Prabhu, an astronomer from the IIAP, said that their task was to identify whether the objects were celestial or terrestrial, whether they were heavenly bodies or they were something that belonged to the earth. The IIAP team gave the conclusion, providing information that stars and planets over the horizon appear very bright because of the increased atmospheric transparency at high altitude, and therefore both Jupiter and Venus at that time were brightest planet in the sky, and perhaps maybe they were observing this. Well, local farmers say that they do not believe the findings of the IIAP team. Not everyone believes that. So local farmers have a different thing to say. They have videotaped objects that do not seem to be planets. So they have their own different theory about it. Finally, the UFO experts say there have been so many UFO sightings in the area that there may be underground UFOs. So they are suggesting or saying that there is a possibility that there could be a UFO base in the particular area. That is why now and then UFO sightings are being seen in that area. Well, this was activity 4. We have the next activity. The following sentences use verbs that are in the passive voice. There are many reasons for using passive voice. One reason we might use passive voice for a verb is that we want to make the person doing the action of the verb seem less important. Well, for example, you can see Jitendra wrecked the car. Wrecked is active voice and the person who did the wrecking is obvious, Jitendra. Well, the car was wrecked. So, was wrecked is the passive voice and we don't know who is the person who has wrecked the car. Well, so this is the way of writing the active and passive voice. We will be having extensive understanding about the active and passive voice when we learn about this topic in grammar. For now, we have been given an activity on page number 34. Decide if the sentences are active or passive. For each of these, we will just be writing A or P. If the sentence appears to us in the active part, active way, the active voice, then we will be writing A, symbolizing it as A, and if it is in the passive voice, we will be symbolizing as B. Well, with necessary explanations, we will be doing these two together. So have a proper attention. First sentence, a meeting for high-level officials is scheduled later this month. Now you will easily be able to identify the words is scheduled, isn't it? If you look at the word is scheduled, the verb given to you, but who has scheduled this is not mentioned. It is only said a meeting for high-level officials is scheduled later this month. So we can clearly say it is a sentence given to us in the passive voice and not active voice because the doer of the action is is not clear to us. Who scheduled it? Well, we have a meeting for high level has been scheduled later, but the person who scheduled it or the authority who scheduled is not mentioned. Therefore, the sentence is in the passive voice. Let's observe the next sentence. Agencies have not been able to identify these luminous flying objects. Well, this sentence is clearly in the active voice because we know the door of the action, that is agencies. Have been is in active voice. Therefore, agencies have failed in identifying the object is showing importance over here. Who have not been able to identify agencies. Therefore, we can clearly say that agencies is given a lot of importance in this sentence. Therefore, the sentence is in the active voice. Next sentence. He was asked if these people have provided strong evidence. Here there is a person who is asking this. He was asked if these people have provided strong evidence. Now, have provided is in the active voice. People have done the job providing strong evidence. So, people have done the work over here of providing. He was asked if these people, so people are the action doing word, the people over here. The people is the important person who are providing information. So, we have the doer of the action in this sentence very, very appropriately. Hence, the sentence can be said to be in the active voice. Next, we have hundreds of UFOs or alien aircrafts have been sighted inside the Indian territory. Well, this sentence is marked as or can be marked as a passive voice sentence because we have the words have been cited is in the passive voice. The person who has cited or who have cited is not important and it's not mentioned over here. Hundreds of UFOs or alien aircraft have been sighted inside the Indian territory, but by whom? That is not mentioned. So we do not have the doer of the action who is citing these 100 UFOs or alien aircraft. Therefore, we can say it is in the passive voice. Next sentence. It was believed that extraterrestrials might be sending the UFOs. So it was a belief that they are sending. It was believed that the extraterrestrials might be sending the UFOs. Now, might be sending is in the active voice because the job of sending is being done by extraterrestrials, and the word was believed is in the passive voice. So we have two things to mark over here, the active voice as well as the passive voice. It was believed that extraterrestrials might be sending. So who is the doer of the action of sending the UFOs? Extraterrestrials. So we can say that might be sending or the verb might be sending is in the active voice, whereas it was believed or was believed is in the passive voice. So we've got two types of verbs over here. One projecting or showing the active voice sentence, one showing the passive voice. Well, next one, many sightings of unidentified objects were documented. Here you can say the statement or the sentence is in the passive voice. Well, were documented is in the passive voice. The verb were documented is in the passive voice. Who documented them is not an important point here, and it is not even mentioned over here. So we can say that the sentence given to us is in the passive voice and not in the active voice. Next one, many such incidents have been reported in the last year. Well, it is exactly the same as we just read the previous one. Many sightings. So here many such incidents have been reported in the last year, but who reported them is not given to us. We do not have the doer of the action. Therefore, we can say that this sentence too is in the passive voice. Here we can note down that have been reported. The verb have been reported is in the passive voice, and who have reported is not important to us. But the incidents have been reported is an important aspect of this sentence. The next one. The army flew a drone in the direction of the floating objects. Here the army flew. So who is flying the drone? Army. So flew is in the active voice, and we have the doer of the action, that is army is flying the drone. So flew is in the active voice, therefore the deed of flying is done by the army, which is an important aspect to note down. Therefore we can say that the sentence given to us is in the active voice and not passive voice. Next one, the measurements were taken and sent to the IIA. Here word taken is in the passive voice, but who took the measurement is not important and is not even mentioned over here. Well, measurement taken is an important aspect of the sentence as a matter of verb over there. So, word taken, the verb word taken is in the passive voice, and hence the sentence is in the passive voice. The next one, the radar could not detect these objects. Could detect, the words could detect is in active voice. The radar has failed in detecting this object, therefore we can say here in this sentence radar is the doer of the action, hence we can mark it out as active voice. Next one, the signals could not be received. Well, the signals could not be received, the words could not be received is in the passive voice. Well, we did not know who is being referred to as the doer of the action over here. The signals could not be received, but by whom, which is not mentioned. Therefore, the importance given to the verb in the sentence is the signals could not be received. So, could not be received is in the passive voice. Who could not receive the signals is not important in this sentence, but the signals could not be received is an important aspect of the sentence. Hence, it is in the passive voice. The last one, we are worried that there may be a problem. Well, if you carefully observe, you have the words are worried is in the passive voice. Well, it may be appearing to you as active. As you read the sentence, we are worried that there may be a problem. You may say here, we is the doer of action. Well, let me tell you that we are not creating the problem. We are just saying that we are worried that there may be a problem. Therefore, are worried is showing passive voice and not active voice, because some problem has created and that problem has been created for us. So we are not the doers of the problem, we are the sufferers of the problem. Therefore, in this sentence, we are worried that there may be a problem. The words are worried indicates or shows passive voice and not active voice. I hope this is clear to you. So this was all about writing active voice or passive voice for the given sentences. Next we have the activity 5 in the material, which is about the interview done by the reporter and given by Carl Sagan. So let's read this report and understand more about it. Read this interview with Carl Sagan, a respected scientist, as he discusses his point of view on the subject of extraterrestrial life. Well, we have been discussing about extraterrestrial on different points of view given by local people and others. So here is an interview given by Carl Sagan on the topic about extraterrestrial life. Let us see what he has to say. As you read, underline any word that are new for you when we will be going across it. The interviewer asked Dr. Sagan to give his views on the existence of intelligent extraterrestrials and the many sightings and reports from people who say that they have seen these beings on Earth. So, the interview asks his first question to Dr. Carl Sagan to say or give his view about extraterrestrials and the many sightings and reports from people who say that they have seen these beings on the Earth. They have seen extraterrestrial people, they have seen aliens on the Earth. Well, in reply, Carl Sagan says, I personally have been captured by the notion of extraterrestrial life and especially extraterrestrial intelligence from childhood. So he says he has already been captivated and captured with this notion, this idea, notion means idea, or this concept that there exist extraterrestrials. It swept me up and I have been involved in sending spacecraft to nearby planets to look for life and in the radio search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Well, so he is further saying that he himself has been doing this That is the research work of finding out if there were any extraterrestrial life existing outside the Earth, for which he has been sending spacecraft and trying to catch radio signals from the nearby planet. And not only this, right from his childhood, this idea had swept up his mind. It had captured his mind. Well, if we found intelligent life on Earth, on other planets, it would be an absolutely transforming event in the human history. Further, he is saying that if it happens, if really we are able to capture something like this, if we are able to capture intelligent life, he was not talking about just about extraterrestrial, he was talking about extraterrestrial intelligence too. That is, those people would be very, very intelligent compared to the people living on the Earth, because they have been able to make their way all the way from their planet to our planet. We are still looking for opportunities to go to the other planets and send common people or people from Earth to that planet. So he says that it would be really a transformating event in the human history. But the stakes are so high on whether it is true or false. So he is saying the stakes are very high. It is really not possible to confirm that whether people say is right or wrong. So the stake is very high. That we must demand the more rigorous standards of evidence, we have to be very, very careful. Unless and until we get some strong, solid, believable proofs, evidences that really extraterrestrial exists, it is not possible for one to believe on it. We have to be very, very careful, because there could be people making stories out there in order to make us believe that extraterrestrials do exist in this planet, on our planet. Well, he further says, I am frequently asked, how could I search for extraterrestrial intelligence and disbelieve that we are being visited? So he is further saying that I am frequently asked this question. Dr. Carl Sagan says that he is being asked this question, that I research for extraterrestrial intelligence, that being scientists, you are researching on this, and on the other hand you are disbelieving that they have visited our place. Well, I don't see any contradiction at all. Well, there is no matter of contradicting on this topic. Well, he says that I am in the work of researching, I do keep researching about extraterrestrial life and extraterrestrial intelligence, but he disbelieves that they have visited our Earth over here. That is not what he does not. The idea of being visited is a wonderful prospect, but requires the most severe and rigorous standards of evidence. Well, it's a very good idea, he says, to come to know that extraterrestrial life or intelligence, or called as aliens, have visited our Earth. But in order to believe that people or extraterrestrial life has visited our planet, the Earth, we require the most severe and the most rigorous, solid, strong evidences or standards of evidences need to be set up, or is required in order to believe it. That is why he finds no contradiction between these two things. One, that he is researching as a scientist, and second, he does not believe that extraterrestrials have visited the Earth. Well, this was, he added to his piece of information that he gave. The interviewer asked another question. The interviewer asked Dr. Sagan to comment on, to give his views on the stories that people have told of being abducted or kidnapped by extraterrestrials. So the question being asked by the interviewer is that people say that extraterrestrial aliens have come to our planet and they have abducted people from our Earth and taken them somewhere. Well, so what is your view about this? He was asked if these people have provided strong evidence for extraterrestrials having visited Earth. Well, this was the question asked by the interviewer to Dr. Sagan, about that people say that extraterrestrials have abducted their loved ones or people from the Earth. Carl Sagan, the evidence is almost entirely an anecdote. Well, he says it is just an anecdote and nothing else. Someone says something happened to them and people can say anything. So people have many stories to say, so it is not what you start believing people. As people said that people have been abducted from our earth and taken somewhere, and it is a work of the extraterrestrial life, extraterrestrial people or aliens, those who have abducted, who kidnapped people from the earth, maybe for their research work or something. Well, so Carl Sagan says that it is almost entirely an anecdote and nothing else. Further, he is saying the fact that somebody says something does not mean it is true. Just because someone says something, you don't start believing it. It is not always true. People can make a number of stories. Well, to be taken seriously, if you want to take someone seriously, what somebody has said, you need physical evidences. People should provide physical evidences that yes, abduction has been done, people have been kidnapped. If you could give some physical proof or evidences, then one could be believed. So that is what he says. To believe that extraterrestrials have abducted people, kidnapped people, we require some solid physical evidences that can be examined. Not only that, we can examine that by skeptical scientists. For example, he gives scraping of a whole ship. For example, if somebody says that extraterrestrials have come over here to Earth and they traveled by a spaceship. So if we have a scraping of that ship, isn't it, the metal part or the paint part or something, so that could be analyzed, it could be examined properly, and the discovery that it contains elements and that does not contain on the Earth. And when such an examination is done of those samples provided, scrapings provided for examination purpose, and in that examination you find something or some element which does not which is not existing in the Earth, it means that a spaceship or that thing is made up of something or some element that is not available on the Earth. Then there is the possibility that we may believe that how did this thing come into our land? How did this thing land up on the Earth over here when it is not a part of the Earth? Then we can say that yes, or we can believe that there are extraterrestrials who have at least visited our planet. But there are no scrapings or other evidences. All there are stories. People are just giving stories that they have seen, they have experienced. There are instances of disturbed soil. Well, sometimes people say that a spaceship had landed over there and therefore a big hole had been created and disturbance of soil has happened. So there are evidence, there are instances, events when people have shown disturbed soils. But I can disturb a soil with a shawl. So Dr. Sagan says we humans can also just disturb a big piece of land with a shovel, and then try to prove or try to claim that a spaceship had landed over here and that is why such a big hole has been created. Well, there are instances of people claiming to flashlights that they have seen flashlights during the night time, that they have projected, or aliens have projected flashlights from their ship trying to contact people on the Earth over here. Well, for this also he says at UFOs and the UFOs flash back. But pilots of airplanes can also flash back. So this was the thing that people have claimed, that UFOs have flashed light and UFOs have flashed back to them. But pilots or airplanes can also flash back, especially if they think it would be a good joke to play. Sometimes people play pranks, play joke on people in order to say so. On the UFO enthusiasts, people those who are UFO enthusiasts, and if you try to tell them such a story, they tend to believe you. So that does not constitute good evidence. This cannot be taken as a good evidence, that just flashing of the light and the light flashing back is not an evidence that UFOs or extraterrestrials exist. Well, quote by Carl Sagan, somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known. Yes, that's very true. There are things outside our knowledge which we do not know. So, somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known. There were many things that human beings and people on the earth, living on the earth, did not know about the atmosphere, about the different layers of the outside the earth, and the many planets that we today know about. So, somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known, what we do not know about. That is what a famous quote from Carl Sagan. Remember that evidence is information that convinces us something is true. So evidence is such a thing that gives us a conviction, a commitment, or a kind of it convinces us that something is really true. So evidences are very, very important. Evidence is facts that show clearly that something exists or is true. So we require evidences for something to believe that it exists in this world or it is true. Evidence is information that we can use to help explain why we think and what we think. So whenever we think about something, when we want to tell someone about our point of view, at least we need to provide some evidence for that. When we give our opinion or idea, people often ask why we believe or what we do. One way that we answer why is with information and facts from different sources. Sometimes we are able to answer the question why because we have come across a number of facts through different sources. With the help of those sources, we try to correlate the things. Therefore, it's important for having evidences. So this was the interview given by Carl Sagan, the questions that he answered, and I hope we've understood about this. Well, next we have an activity giving us a lot of information about the universe and the light years and the other facts. Well, we'll quickly go through this, read about it and understand. The universe is such a huge place that many people think there must be other life somewhere in it just because it is so huge. That is one simple basic reason for the belief that there is life beyond our earth because it is very, very vast. It is a huge thing. The universe is so huge that it must be measured in light years. We do not have the simple ways of measuring it, but we have to measure it in light years. Well, light years, light is the fastest thing we know. It travels 299,792,458 meters per second. It is that fast a light travels to the earth. Our sun is 8.33 light minutes away, meaning it takes the light from the sun 8.33 minutes to reach us. Imagine how far away a light year must be. If just the light coming from the sun to the earth is 8.33 minutes away, then think about the light years, isn't it? The most important, the most distant part of the universe that scientists have evidences of comes from the light that has taken 14 billion years to reach us. It is 14 billion light years away, and there may be many more universes farther away than that. So what people have discovered, scientists have discovered, the most distant part of the universe that scientists have evidence, they have proof for that, comes from the light that has taken 14 billion years to reach us. So there are places where scientists have evidence which are 14 billion light years away from our earth. That is what scientists have believed, and scientists have evidences for the same as well. There are places like this. So we can say that places which scientists give evidence to us are 14 billion light years away. We will have to travel 14 billion light years in order to reach that place. That is what scientists tell us. And maybe there are such more universes and farther away from that place. So these were a few things that we read. In the highlighted box, you've been given the information about 1 light year, 1 light minute, the nearest star Proxima Centauri, and it is 4.243 light years away from the earth. Well, facts that you need to cater, remember, understand. As Carl Sagan said, somewhere something incredible is waiting to be known. On the basis of this, we can try and imagine that what incredible beings might live 14 billion light years away from us. Well, they would live so far that it would take 14 billion light years from the light from their sun to reach the earth. So it will take 14 billion light years for their sunlight to come to our earth. They are so far from us. What might these beings look like? A matter to think about, a question to think about. What abilities would they have? Do they have the same abilities as we have, or they have different skills and abilities than what we possess? Are they intelligent? Do they have luggage? sorry, do they have language? Just like we have language for us, do they have language to communicate? Do they have homes or shelters like we live in? What would they like? Just we like different things. What would they need? What are their needs? Well, do they eat? Do they have emotions? Are all such questions that make us very, very curious to know about those beings that we think they are. Well, we are not sure about that, but yes, evidences scientists have given that such places exist 14 billion light years away. Well, this was the interview and the piece of information that we have gathered from this chapter. So this was all about chapter My Point of View that we came across in this lecture. See you soon in the upcoming lecture. Till then, have a nice day. Goodbye and take care.